So, Lloyd, you had a question?
Yes, what is it, how is it advantageous to CMP to have this network of interconnected wireless circuitry? I'm still, stuck in that idea that you are billed monthly for the electricity that you use. What's the purpose of this whole?
Well, well, when you say what's the purpose of the entire system, the purpose is that, or the selling point, I should say, of the system to our state legislature and actually the Obama administration and the PUC and everybody, the industry's sales pitch is this, that we want to save energy, and the way we can do it is we got to know what we're using. So we need to know what your refrigerator is using, or your washer or dryer, because I'll probably wash my clothes at midnight instead of 5 o'clock when power, see, electricity is purchased at different times of the day, varies in price. You can get it cheaper one time, higher. And basically what this is going to do is enable CMP to use what's called time of use pricing, which means that you're going to be able to choose if you want to go on to time of use, or maybe it'll become mandatory sometime, which means that you'll be paying for electricity different times, different usage. So if you use all your electricity at midnight, your bill's going to be way low. They're convinced that that's going to change people's behavior so that they will cook at midnight and not. What the studies have shown, however, the pilot studies have shown that people have changed their habits for about 3 months, and then boom, it's like, we all live busy lives.
Yeah.
We have to eat at a certain time. We got to put our kids to bed. We're watching the news. We go to work. But it also is supposed to enable, this is supposed to enable the smart cars and the plug-in vehicles and that sort of thing. And then sort of part 2 of your question was, what's the advantage to CMP? They say that they can quickly figure out who's out of power, so they can restore your power quicker. But the kind of data that they're going to get is much more detailed than they need for that. All they need to know is whether your power is on or off. They don't need to know whether your refrigerator's on or off.
Plus, it's not even going to be accurate, because like I said, I don't have anything new in my house, so like the information that they get is not, it's not even.
Well, that information is not, they're not going to use that. They'll use what your whole usage will be, and even if you don't have your usage will still be recorded on your meter, even if you don't have a wireless.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they won't be able to tell where it's coming from.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
The other big benefit to CMP is that they fire all the meter readers up with federal stimulus money that was intended to save and create jobs.
Yeah, right.
They're laying off all the meter readers and allegedly reducing the carbon footprint because all those trucks aren't driving around.
There's one more piece of speculation, and I'll just mention it just so that, if you know anything about, broadband or just bandwidth, and if you read in the papers and they talk about, the FCC is going to release an auction on so much bandwidth, blah, 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 and all the Verizon, unless you're a techie, you don't know really what's going on. Well, there's a certain amount of bandwidth with each meter that CMP is going to have, and these are unlicensed bandwidth. And seriously, CMP could become a cellular company as well. And they could be using your house to transmit signals. Now, when I asked in a conference specifically at a table across from them, was that their intention, the response I got was, well, that's not our intention. And I said, but is it a possibility? Well, anything's a possibility, I said. So do you have plans to do this? Was this an investment for you? We're not ruling anything out. And I kept pressing and pressing until the PUC had to shut me up and say, okay, we're done with that question. So the fact is, the ability is there. Whether that's going to happen or not, I don't know. But what I'm saying, this technology is going to enable all kinds of different things. And because it's 2.4 gigahertz, and because you've got this opportunity to transmit data back and forth. I mean, that's one of the reasons Dianne's appeal to the Supreme Court was really about this whole idea of CMP doesn't have a right to use your home for business. And I don't believe that either. So this is another reason. The data collection, protection, privacy, and constitutional rights issue is another reason to opt out. Right now, there's no laws that protect your data from third-party vendors. So in other words, CMP has a policy, or the PUC has a policy, they won't share your information with anyone. But the third-party accounting firm that gets some of this information, they aren't regulated by any of those policies because they're a third party. So right now, it's really iffy as what's going on. They're trying to work out the legal issues in the federal level. We're trying to do it at the state level now, but it's not. They're going to know basically when you could, if all your appliances are working, when you're home, when you're on vacation, whether you use a medical device, if it's a sleep apnea machine. They'll have a vivid profile of your daily living habits. This is called consumer profiling, and this is taken from an industry diagram, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and you can see they will know when you're using your kettle, toaster, kettle bob. This is already, people are shocked when they see this, but they will be able to tell all of these things, and that's really a violation, in our opinion, of people's privacy. Who wants that information? Well, marketers want that information, insurance companies want that information, and police officers want that information. The Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution says that property cannot be taken for public use without just compensation and due process. And that's one of the amendments that we believe is being violated here. And there has been a Supreme Court case regarding police officers who used wireless surveillance for thermal imaging to find out that somebody was growing marijuana in their basement. And the guy was found guilty, but the Supreme Court justices, even the ones that found him guilty, said that the use of that surveillance was against the law, that it was unwarranted and that was inappropriate, and that we should be safe in our own home. Well, this is practically going to be the same thing. So I'm hoping that somebody will take this all the way to the Supreme Court. The wireless systems also are much more vulnerable. We just heard 3 people behind me just had their identities stolen. We don't know why the 3 houses behind, if they went into the trash or what. But what the police officers told those folks was that what's happening all around is some of these hackers are coming in, I didn't tell you guys this, with their laptops, and they're hacking into your wireless, and if you don't have a code or whatever, they can get into your data on your computer. So, and they can find out your bank account numbers and things like that. The smart meter is linked directly to your home computer data, and we believe the electrical grid is going to be less secure than what they're talking about. This is as a security issue, but many people disagree. And the overbilling issue that Elisa alluded to, there's some people that are getting a lot lower bills, and other people are getting huge bills, and there's no explanation for it. And they test out the meters, and what the theory is that you're getting your data. When the data is transferred from your meter, CMP sat there with a straight face and told me that my meter was not going to use any energy to transfer my neighbor's data. Now, how could my meter transfer data without using energy? That defies a law of nature, right? But they sat there with a straight face, and that's what they said. So some people believe that this whole smart grid is going to actually increase the use of energy.
I don't think we've mentioned that the data is going from one house to another. It's going all down the line. So if you're house number 10 and you're at number 1, all that data is being collected and then sent to.
And then I think we already mentioned the fires really have to do with old or unshielded cables, and the fact that what Elisa was talking about, the voltages going from, and they are not UL tested, they're not third-party tested, and there was a fire at El Rayo Taquero in Portland actually by faulty installation, because the installation folks aren't very well trained either. The blown appliances is probably due to an electrical spike on the wire. So whether it's caused by that meter per se, it's causing issues. Okay, should I go forward? Okay, so those are your two choices, your electromechanical meter, your smart meter turned off, and your electromechanical meter. The other thing just that we didn't really talk about is that the other option is hardwiring, and my complaint before the PUC was all about hardwiring, and the fact that, you know, if you truly believe this is a good system, just hardwire the system. Fiber optic is the best. Tennessee is using fiber optics, and they actually got a grant, a big grant from the stimulus money to put in fiber optics. And Maine is the largest geographical area that's using these wireless smart meters, and Maine's the only one using 2.4 gigahertz. They're using 900 gigahertz over in California and most of that. In fact, is there anybody else using 2.4? We don't know why we're using 2.4. We still haven't figured that one out. We don't like it. There's something not right about why we're using it. We could never get a straight answer, really. 2.4 gigahertz is not regulated, so they don't have to pay a fee. But I don't think 900 is either.
No, it isn't.
900 isn't either, so that doesn't really give a reason. But anyway, these are the costs that they decided. What you should know about the costs are that they're worth it, but they are extortionist, I believe. Also, that the electromechanical meter they'll read it every second month, I think, and they'll do an estimated read. And we tried to get them to do self-reads so that we could just email a photo of our meter via the internet. They didn't want any part of that because that would be a cheaper way of doing it and we would have solved their problem. They didn't like that. We pushed that like 3 times. We pushed that heavy duty. The smart meter turned off. They haven't even created, this is another one that everybody loves. They haven't even created this meter yet. This meter, the state of Maine, CFP is going to spend $900,000. PUC allows them to charge all ratepayers to develop this meter turned off. But it's going to take about 6 to 9 months, and they will still come in and they will take your data. So if you're concerned about the information that they get, they'll still be able to get your data because they'll read it on site. And they are going to pay the vendor, but because of our complaints, if they sell that technology to any other state, we will benefit in that because we put that in part of our contingencies. But CMP didn't even consider that, so I think that's all the questions. These are the reasons.
Yeah, we've got some questions out here, and we're kind of
Yes.
timed out soon.
As far as opting out, we already have a smart meter on our house. To have them come and take it off, is there an extra charge for that?
Well, when did you guys get deployed? When did you get your meter?
It was around February.
No, well then you can just opt out now and they'll come and take it away.
And after that, there's a $20 charge for
$25 charge.
taking it
But
away.
you
Well,
won't
you won't have to
you
pay
shouldn't
it.
have to pay that.
But he'll have to pay the $40 initial
Yeah.
charge. You'll have to pay a $40 initial charge. But you won't have to pay the penalty. You won't have to pay the penalty because you had already been deployed.
And the $40 initial charge is for anyone who wants to get out? And then
It's a
after
one-time fee and then a monthly fee of $12.
Or you could just not pay
Or
that.
you could
That's,
just not pay it. So, no, I just, if I can add
Yeah.
for just a second, and just say it's worth it to have the opt-out. Having worked in politics here in Maine pretty much my whole life, the discrimination in that is just extraordinary. And the significant number of people in Maine cannot afford that. And so I take great umbrage at the fact that this would even be considered somewhat acceptable, because yes, it's worth it because you're not being subjected to it, but the significant number of people in Maine cannot afford it should not have to pay.
Plus,
To
what
be
about
safe.
renters? Nobody's even talking about, like, renters that don't have even control over that, whether or not they can.
Right, and you don't have control of that, but you will have to still pay if you want the, I don't even know how they're gonna do that with rental buildings.
Exactly.
We can
Exactly.
probably answer that question after.
So, but in any case, it's just, it's a part of one of the case that I think that we're gonna be talking about is the discrimination in that regard as well. There are people who cannot afford that and should not be made
Absolutely.
to do that because they can't afford it.
Nobody really should be paid to protect their health. And the World Health Organization says it's a possible carcinogen.
It's a huge percentage of the average bill, absolutely.
Isn't that enough to, if
Yeah, you would
somebody said
think.
the DUC has to provide safe equipment?
You would
and
think.
now the World Health Organization says this isn't.
You would think, but again, it's a matter of, do we have the money to take it to the courts, to fight it? And, you know, there are lawsuits out in California happening, the whole country's up in arms about this, and Ed, and you'll talk about your case a little bit, but it's complicated
And
by money on the other
You
side.
talked about Wi-Fi mostly in the context of interference. Can you compare and contrast the possible health effects of RF from Wi-Fi versus those of cell phones or smart meters?
I mean, I can
Because
feel
that, I mean, most of us have that now these
I can
days.
feel it on a daily basis.
It's Wi-Fi and cell phones, I mean, and smart meters are very similar in that they broadcast RF and over a certain period, you know, over a certain area, square footage, and it's a mesh system. It's also 2.4 gigahertz. Wi-Fi, most of Wi-Fi is 2.4 gigahertz. So, yeah, I didn't realize when I first got involved in this that Wi-Fi and smart meters were the same thing. But then the more we read, it was in the same, you know, it's called the microwave range of radio frequency. And it's all in that same range, and it has the same health effects, whether it comes from a smart meter, or whether it comes from Wi-Fi, or whether it comes from a cell phone. It's radio frequency radiation.
And more countries are,
Many countries.
well,
In
the
Europe.
World Health Organization is, Norway, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And they don't have Wi-Fi in libraries or in schools or in public buildings.
Oh, yeah. Europe is way ahead of us.
They don't have it. But some of Europe has it everywhere in private buildings, you know, in McDonald's and, you know, bookstores, but in their governmental buildings, they have opted not to. They have made decisions, and some of them, like France, like I said, in Israel, they've pulled it out, Wi-Fi out of schools.
Because people are getting sick. The
Because
difference,
they're getting
though-
sick, yeah.
You know, the big difference is with Wi-Fi, you can turn it on. I mean,
Right.
if you're not using it, or at night,
And
you know, if you want,
not
if you
get
want
it.
feeling
Yes.
sleep,
Not
you want to
managed.
plug it, and you're okay. But with smart meters, you can't turn them off. They're going 24/7. A lot of people now are unplugging their Wi-Fi at night to sleep better. The thing with smart meters is between the hours of midnight and 6 a.m. Those are the strongest peak pulses. So you're getting hit and you can't turn it off and you can't control it. Wi-Fi does drop off with distance. I mean, if you're 200 feet away from a Wi-Fi signal, you're a lot better off, whereas with smart meters, it's
Because there's
everywhere.
more of them.
Right.
Right.
And then you add
And-
those things together and.
And more
It's
and more
just
people are definitely realizing this too. I just went to Staples and was asking about a switch. When I was in Europe recently, you know, they have, on every plug, they have a turn on, you know, switch for every single plug, because you leave something plugged in and you're using electricity, even if your light's off. And see, in Europe, they turn it right off at the switch, so your appliance is not pulling any energy of it. But anyway, I went to Staples to see, you know, do you have anything like that? So I can turn my Wi-Fi off and on. He says you have to go in with the URL to turn your Wi-Fi off. I have to go into my URL for whatever my router is, and it's an easy thing, but that's how you turn it off. Otherwise, it's on. Otherwise, you have to unplug it and replug all your computers in, and unplug it and replug it. Right? But he goes, but it's a good idea. And I said, you think it's a good idea? He said, yeah, more and more people are asking. I mean, it's really coming around, I mean, especially since now that they've linked, you know, gliomas and romas to cell phones, people are starting to really take notice that it's an issue. I'm gonna pull it out. My husband's, he's almost there. He's almost there.
Now, if anybody has time on Monday, there's gonna be a great discussion happening at USM, in the Wish Camper Center in room 102, from 1 to 3:30. And there are a number of speakers coming. One of them is Deborah Davis. She wrote the book Disconnect, which is a fabulous read.
Dr. Bourne.
Jack Carpenter,
Yep.
Just world-renowned
World-renowned
experts
on RF radiation.
And when is it, and
It's Monday,
what time?
1 to 3:30. It's at USM. It's the Wish Camper Center, and I think that's the one with the skywalk across.
It's the newer building.
Yeah. Room 102.
And it's gonna be specifically on cell phones and radio, but it is, they're gonna talk about radio frequency, but there's also some people that have been affected and with real tumors from cell phones. And these researchers are coming from, I don't know,
New York.
New York.
Dr. Blank's from New York.
Yeah.
Dr. Davis is
I think she's Washington. And she actually used to be associated with the WHO. Yeah.
Yeah.
The health organization. And once she realized that there was something going on and she used the cell phone, she pretty much didn't have a job there anymore.
David Carpenter is head of the School of Public Health at State University of New York in Albany.
Dr. Carpenter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now, the Karolinska Institute, did you read the Ali Johansson is now having a problem repeating some of the, he's a renowned researcher on RF as well, and he's already lost one job, and now he's under pressure and may not be able to continue his research because you've got to understand that the cell phone industry is now second only to big oil and tobacco as far as lobbying goes.
Okay.
And the dollars spent on lobbying.
Question?
Kathleen?
Well, and I just wanted to, I mean, this is conjecture on my part, but having worked with the FDA and on pesticides and on mercury and on various things, it's very, very possible, and I've heard this from people who have called me from around the country about this, that the WHO making this determination, it being a 2B carcinogen, was as much a political decision as anything, because again, with FDA, with mercury and with pesticides, it ended up being politically motivated, so that it really should have been at a higher level. And it was only through wrangling and lobbying that it got as far as it did, and in fact, it is probably far more dangerous than it is. So for the WHO to even admit that this is a possible 2B is...
Yeah, the WHO is known to be extremely conservative.
Very
And we
conservative.
believe that because some of these other sort of not as prestigious organizations have, ahead of them, were declaring it as a carcinogen, I think it just sort of pushed them, and you're right, I think it probably is supposed to be way far greater risk than what they're admitting to.
Yeah, I think it's important. You touched on a lot of other things there, but cancer gets the big news, but there's this whole host of other really, really important non-cancerous effects that thousands of studies have shown non-ionizing radiation to cause or have an effect on. So it's a little bit late. I don't know.
I know, sorry, we went
That's right.
talked a lot.
If I'm going to let people get up and split if they want to, and you can answer questions if people want to stay. We also have some juice over there and some cookies. Enough of us here, you can just crack that open and help yourself. And
Were you going to talk
Someone's
about
gotta
your
do the
case
drawing,
now? or-
what's that?
Someone's gonna do the drawing, Jack.
Oh, right, yeah, where's the basket? We got to do the drawing. Nate, pass it up there. Let one of the ladies pick a name out of the hat here.
Also wanted to mention that we're also taking
Yeah,
donations. If anyone wants to donate for taking our case
Okay.
to the Maine Supreme Court, and just to help with attorney's fees, so if anybody wants to donate, there's a donation jar over there, and it will go to the appeals, our case appeal to the Maine Supreme
Yep.
Court.
Our case, a different complaint than these folks. was rejected. Our motion for reconsideration got rejected yesterday by default. If the PUC doesn't respond in 20 days, you're considered rejected. That opens the door to going to the law court, which Dianne had started the process for her complaint, and we've started it with ours. We'll hopefully combine our cases, consolidate our cases. So,
Drum roll, please.
drum roll,
So,
please.
yeah, is there likely to be a class action suit therefore? Does that go to a class action suit?
The Supreme Court doesn't allow class
Yeah,
actions.
that's right, that's right.
The Maine Supreme Court?
No, I'm teasing.
Yeah. No, there was a bad case at the, you
It
know,
won't, it won't be a
US
class action suit.
But there should be,
But
There
we've
will
talked
be.
about that as being a way to press the no cost. Oh, we didn't mention this. Call your legislature. Call the utility committee and the state legislature, because there is am I supposed to say that?
yeah, you should say it.
Oh, I can?
It's public information.
It's public information.
Oh, okay,
Is
sorry.
it the Utilities and Technology
Yeah,
Commission?
there's gonna be a bill, possibly a no-cost opt-out bill, put in.
And if you sign
And-
up,
But it has to get out of committee, that's the
Yeah,
problem, it
that's right,
has to
because
get out
that's
of the
the
committee
retreats.
for a full vote. Now, the cell phone bill did pretty well this year, better than previous years. So, just so you know, they were trying to get stricter labeling on cell phones. And they failed, but only by like 10 votes or something. So it was a lot closer than before. So we just have to get it out of committee to get the no cost. Okay,
All right.
Peter Sullivan.
Peter, you just left.
Oh, well, we'll have to pick another.
You still, the door hadn't quite closed.
I
don't know. I think we should put it to a vote, you know? Does he forfeit or not? He was thinking of it.
2 more
Oh,
feet.
you left, we picked another.
2 more feet, I wouldn't have
Sorry.
Thank you.
And you can exchange it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.